Go ahead.
Well, a while ago you were telling me a story about there was a guy and he was a predator and he went around elementary schools and he grabbed a little girl's hand and she had no training at all and she just went with him because he was an adult. He grabbed her hand and she walked with him and he took her to the back of the van.
He trained to hold hands as kids. And
right.
Go with the
and he did what he did and she died. And there was a Marine's daughter.
Yeah.
And he grabbed her hand.
This is true though.
Yeah, this was true. She fought, she kicked, I don't know, she scratched, she bit, and she yelled, and she got away from him.
She actually pushed the guy over a bush. and when they found, and the father,
and she got the license plate.
It said, get all the information you could get, which was like in that movie Taken. And she got the license plate. They found the guy shortly after, and you know he had handcuffs, chains, and rope in the back of his car.
Right.
And he was going to tie that girl up, and he was a known pedophile. And she did some move that the father showed her and pushed her away. So it wasn't about protecting your kid by not letting your kid know what's going on.
Right.
It was about education. There are people out there that are bad. And those people that are bad are just victims of their own circumstance. And that's what we talk about, the dragon. That's what we talk about. And people that go to jail, I've dealt with the criminal element all my life. They just become better criminals.
Yeah.
It's like going to school when you go to jail. So the system isn't working. Well, that's okay. What system does. But the point is that that's why I call my school systems within systems. Many levels of consciousness, many levels of thought. When you talk about God and you talk about emotions, you're talking about the many voices within you. So we all have, each emotion attaches itself to a different voice. It's like your left side is speaking different than your right side. It's just that what makes it, amalgamates it all together, is that you understand what type of kick or what type of throw you throw from your left side than you do from your right side. And sometimes you could throw the same with the right and the left. But most of the time, it's different. There's a different way of approaching it. There's something different. And when you talk about taking action and studying what it is that makes you understand more about yourself, it comes into play that when you're dealing with different levels of consciousness, different levels of understanding of different voices, they attach to different emotions within yourself, within your being, because we don't realize that we're biological and chemical and genetic. Right away we make excuses for why we do what we do, or we say, oh, it's because of this. Because we don't realize that a lot of it is biological. We don't realize a lot of it is chemicals that are released within your brain that cause you to act a certain way. Well, that's the voice. You have to learn to listen to that voice and amalgamate. We have many voices within. Sometimes those voices, and we've all been through that, get really confused. Like you heard that old expression, making a mountain out of a molehill. And everything seems to pile up and we seem to get lost within that. We all have many voices within them. But there is a ringleader, and that's what you have to have faith in, that brings all the voices together, a place where, if I was talking about my friend earlier, that you can remain calm and center and listen out to that one voice, and you have to have faith and believe in it and be able to walk down that hallway. You need to challenge it. You need to take action. And there's certain things that commercially that we need to be trained with. Like before earlier we were talking about guns. If a person is trained right in the gun, most of the people will say 9 out of 10 people are going to do the proper thing. And when you talk about violence, how many people really deal with absolute violence every day? But when it does happen, you're shocked by it. All of a sudden, phoom, somebody has a gun to your head, and you're like, well, this never happened before. It isn't like, poof, yesterday, poof, the day before, poof, the day before. Like, I'm kind of used to this, This is what I'm going to do, It's like, you've lived 50 years of your life, and all of a sudden now you've got a gun pointed at your head, and now you need to take action. We need to train. And I won't get into the social politics of the fears and everything, but everything is political because everything is based on fear. Religion is based on fear and the anxieties of it. right? And the control, the government, everything. And I understand that. We do need some type of structure and guidance, and that's where it's not going to change. But individually it can change. You know, we all know what's wrong, but there's nothing we can do about it. We all know that politicians are corrupt. I'm not saying anything that nobody doesn't know. I'm not saying we got President Obama right now, and I think he's a great man. And the president we had before him, I believe that he did a lot of mistakes, but I don't think he did them on purpose. I believe that he thought that what he was doing was right. And Obama is finding out that, well, I have great ideas, but no one wants to listen to them because it ain't going to change. And therefore he's fighting the struggle. And I commend what he's trying to do, but you know, there's too much dogma for that to change. So we all know politicians are this way. What makes politicians different than the mafia? To me, nothing. There's nothing different. It's all the same. There's corruption on both fields. But, you know, individually, whether they're in a politician or in the mafia, or you as a person that's just struggling trying to get by, wherever you are is where you are. The difference can only be within you, because that's the only thing that's going to make the difference. So people say to me, well, why do you talk to a person that's in mafia? Why do you talk to this person that's this way? Because to me, they're all the same. There is no difference in anybody. When you talk about spirituality, when you talk about internal understanding, expression, it's all the same. It's a presence. When you talk about consciousness, well, to me, that's a material part of the mind that's developed, but it's developed for a reason. It doesn't mean that that's God or that spirit. It just means that it's consciousness, and that we have evolved to the point to understand consciousness, to that we have consciousness, not where it comes from. As far as studies go, I think it's scattered throughout the brain. Well, that's great, you know, but really what it's representing, or to evolve from it, it's a means to have a better understanding of the self. So we've evolved to that point where we can do something individually. So when you talk about God, it's about how you represent that within yourself. What God do you want to represent within yourself? You know, how do you want to live in this world? You know, it's like in the Hobbit or whatever it is. This is your time. It's better, worse, or whatever. This is your time. What are you going to do with it? And I always come back to that, because that had a great impact on me as a young person. You know, what are you doing with this time? How are you representing yourself? And that's when we get into presence.